This is the Motivated Business Show, hosted by me, Mark Terrell, the author of Motivated, the Reluctant Leader's Guide to Building a Business That Sets You Free. In my book, I share the 7-step process to get the measure of your business. M.E.A.S.U.R.E is an acronym that stands for Mirror, Evaluate, Action, Systemize, Unify, Review, and Energize. On each episode, I'll be chatting to a business owner about how they stay motivated and how they've got the measure of their business. So without further ado, let's find out who's joining me on this episode. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Motivated Business Show with me, Mark Terrell. Today's guest, well, I met her a long time ago at networking, and we've always sort of bumped into each other at different networking events, and I finally persuaded her to come on and join me on the show. So looking forward to chatting to her a bit later. Before we do that though, just to mention a few things. Firstly, I want to mention my book. Reason for that is I will be mentioning a 7-step process which I talk about in that book. There is a chapter for each of the 7 steps, and also there's 2 extra chapters which is 2 things that are becoming more and more important, and that's understanding what it is that we want from our business, looking after ourselves essentially, and also enjoying the journey. So you can get that book from me directly, or you can buy it from good old Amazon in Kindle or paperback form. And if you'd like to buy a book from me, or you get a book from me, you can do that by buying me a couple of Buy Me a Coffees. So there's a link, or I'll share a QR code there, where you click through, buy me 2 coffees, and I'll send you a copy of my book. And if you just like to contribute to the podcast, we don't have a sponsor. We do this for the love of it. But so if you'd like to contribute, then if you buy me 1 coffee, that keeps the wheels in motion and is gratefully received. Okay, let's bring on today's guest. Welcome, Vicki.
Hi Mark, thank you for having me on the show.
Looking forward to it. Let's give you the opportunity to introduce yourself properly.
Hi everyone, so I have my own brand and web design business called Blue Mango Creative, and I help businesses to evolve their brands so they can attract the right clients.
Brilliant. Right, Vicki, what got you into all this then? What's your story, I suppose, so I should be asking you.
Actually, I'm at 25 years in business this December. That's when I first started up my business. Back 25 years ago, I left the University of the West of England in Bristol. I left with a graphic design degree, but I also left with a 6-month-old son. Me and my fiance thought, weren't expecting this. This wasn't part of the plan. And back in the day when all my friends were working, getting interviews in the agency world, there wasn't flexible working hours for women back then. So I couldn't work part-time. So with the help of my parents, who both had their own businesses, they helped me to set up my own business. So back in the day when I was a print design and logo designer, back in the day when files would be sent to printers via floppy disk in the post, and proofs would come back in the post. It was a very long process compared to now. And then over the years, I developed my web design skills and branding skills. So I'm quite driven. I'm not a plodder. It's like, right, what's the next thing I can bring into my business? And I think that shows quite evidently 25 years ago that, I have got that drive inside me.
Wow. About 25 years ago, there wouldn't be many parents that would be encouraging their daughter to set up a business, would they? Let's face it. Most people will say, you've got to find a job for goodness sake. What's wrong with you? So, wow, that's incredible. So you had entrepreneurial parents, I suppose. Is that fair to
absolutely.
say?
Yeah, I'm very lucky. And looking back now, everything happens for a reason. And even though I didn't think of it at the time, I wouldn't have enjoyed working in the agency world, working those long hours. When you have your own business, you have the freedom to do what you want to do.
Yeah. And also control. We've mentioned that a few times before we went live. Control came up a few times. But it is important though, because I think understanding that you have control over things. And actually, one of the things that actually drives a lot of the things that we do is that we want to have control over things. And it's when we lose control that things go a bit pear-shaped. So it's absolutely really important to understand that. So thank you for sharing that, because it's really interesting that, how businesses start are, my businesses started because I wanted to prevent people making the same mistakes as I've made. So and there's lots of people that, particularly in coaching, that do that. But your story is particularly interesting in that you have parents that encourage you to do what you're doing. So
And it was hard back then. There wasn't social media.
no,
My work was driven through connection, through getting to know people, chatting to people, and working for free to begin with to get my portfolio up together.
yeah,
I couldn't share my portfolio on the web, on social media. It was, when I look back now, I think actually it was really hard.
yeah. And how did you do that in the early days then? What was your first step?
Talking to people that I knew. It was all about communication with people, and that's really how I run my business now. Nothing has really changed, but with technology and networking and being online, it's still about relationship building, but there are more opportunities now.
That's interesting. Again, that's just so you continue to do the things you've always done, but the things that come along, like the internet, and now we've got AI. They're like something to work with your systems and not completely ditch the things that have worked up to this point.
That's right, and it's
Yeah.
about evolving the business. So with the
Mm.
onset of the web back, well, it's about 22 years ago I learned about the web. So I've had to evolve my business to adapt, and it's exactly the same with AI. It's bringing in AI in a positive way. We can't get away from it.
Mm.
So yeah, we'll see where that one goes.
Yeah, got to embrace it indeed. Okay, so let's talk about brand and brand strategy then. Why do you see it as one of the fundamentals of business?
So the processes I use are quite different to other designers. Um, Back when I first started up my business, it was more of a tick sheet. Tell me your favourite colours. What are your values? It was all very much a tick sheet. Um, and I suppose back then there was this amount of research and understanding and insight, and a lot more design work. Now I've moved it around. There's a lot more brand strategy, so I understand my clients at a much deeper level. So they have a brand that truly reflects them, and the processes I use are. So apart from understanding my clients, ideal clients, their competitors, what gets them out of bed in the morning, their philosophy, and also where is their business heading in the future. So it's not just about now, but are their services going to change? Will their staff grow? How is their business going to grow? These are all important questions to ask, along with the branding cards that I use. So these branding cards that I use, there's 52 words on the cards, and this was developed by a company called the E.B. And I'm now a practitioner to use these cards. And I went on a 2-day workshop to understand using them. And so, yeah, what I do is I get my clients to choose 8 words that resonate with their business, reflect their business. And it's not just about the words they choose, it's the conversation that we have. And drawing out those qualities, understanding at a much deeper level, asking questions. And then when we turn the cards over, we've got purple words and we've got green words. So the green words are the left brain thinking words, so they're the being and the doing words, and the purple words are the relational words. I really get a true understanding of what that business is like. If they're more purple, maybe the brand and the design is going to be a little bit softer. If they're more green, we use stronger fonts, bolder colours. Then with all that insight, I put it all together in a brand mood board, and that brand mood board brings in font psychology, colour psychology and imagery before any logo design and brand assets are designed.
Hmm. So you mentioned the word logo there. So where does the logo fit in with a brand strategy?
Well, that brand strategy is a really, really important part. So logo designs can't even be started or even thought about until that brand strategy process has gone through. And it's a lot longer process than it used to be, purely because of my learning along the way.
Yeah, I answered that for a particular reason because I see so many people that join these sort of like Facebook groups and say, "I was just setting up my business. Do you know anybody that can create a logo for me?" And it makes me chuckle because you can buy a logo for a few quid if you want to, but essentially what you do is nothing about really creating a logo. It's about that's way down the line. It's actually getting to the values of the person and actually what the business is actually really going to be, how it wants to change the world in some ways.
Yeah, so this is an interesting question actually, because when startups come to me and they don't really have a clue, they're a little bit lost, I will actually say to them, go to Fiverr, get a logo, just develop your own website, come back to me in a year when you've got a clearer idea of your vision.
Mm.
Because that first year, so much changes. Um, However, when people do come to me and say, and they've been in business for a while, they say, well, I just want a logo design. We can go through so many reiterations of logo designs, different color changes. No, don't like that. Can we explore this route? They've actually spent a lot more time and a lot more money through going through all those reiterations compared to actually if they bought the brand strategy package, we would have got to that place a lot quicker.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I must admit, when I first set up, I was given the terrible advice to create my own website. And you can imagine what happened. Actually, the website was all right because I actually followed a guy on YouTube, basically step by step. So it was a WordPress website, and you sort of start there, and I started to do something. I had no idea what I was doing. All I was doing was I was following this guy. But essentially, all I was doing was recreating what he'd already recreated. So there's not much point in doing that, really, is there, when you think about it? If it's just about getting a website, then you might as well just have a one pager because the rest of it is nonsense. That's
Yeah,
what I think about it looking back.
yeah, you've got to have a proper website strategy as well, which is something else that I bring in with my
Yeah.
website design.
Shall we move on to that then? So, with regards to website design and the different ways you can do that, do you want to give us a bit of an overview on that?
So yeah, like I said, back sort of 22-ish years ago, I started bringing in web developers. I would design the front end of websites, and then web developers would bring in their development phases using WordPress. And we had some bigger clients. Well, we work with a school up the road, and their website is 200 pages long. It's a massive website, and they have the budget. They have the budget for the upgrades and the maintenance. I love working in collaboration like that with my developers. However, it got to, gosh, it was about 8 years ago when another platform came on board that really interested me, and that was Squarespace. Um, Squarespace is very design led, which meant that I could keep it more in house. Okay, there is coding that I will add if there's certain features that my clients would like. I can do that personally. But it means that, again, I can have more control. and and I use Illustrator for designing those elements that I can then import into Squarespace, create a new unique website that is very different to the next business.
Mhm.
But also those Squarespace clients, they don't have the maintenance costs and the upgrading costs that my bigger clients have. So I have bigger clients, I have smaller clients, and we talk about the platforms that would be suited to them.
Yeah, I guess that all depends on the plan for the business and where it's going and what they want to create long term, isn't it? Uh,
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Squarespace, I would say probably up to 20, 25 pages. And you can have blogs on there as well. But Cotswold School up the road, 200 pages, and they need more features that actually Squarespace can't provide.
Yeah, interesting. And where do you see websites and the importance with regards to having a website these days? Is it something that, again, is it just down to the client, or is it something you advise them to do, or where does it fit in?
Um, I still think it's really, really important, and even with AI, I think it's really, really important. Um, we can use social media to market our businesses, but then where do you drive traffic to? your website so people can find out a little bit more about your business. And I work with SEO experts that will help raise the search engine rankings for those clients' websites as well. But again, this is all down to the initial conversation I have with my clients. So some clients say, no, I'm not interested in SEO. I don't want to be found on Google. All my clients come through social media or through networking. So we need to have that conversation in terms of what we do with SEO, or whether we really put the time and the effort into it.
Brilliant. Yeah. So you've mentioned you brought that in-house. So I'm guessing there's some things that you don't do in-house, that you work with other people with regards to getting the whole package together. Are those sort of things that you don't want to do, or are they things that you just see that they're too specialised?
So the beauty with me is I've got everything under one roof in terms of brand strategy, logo design, website design, and I'm doing a lot of digital brochures at the moment. However, when I've got that brand strategy package together, I can then send it to my copywriters, my photographers, marketing specialists, so that we've got consistency in the brand, and that's really, really important.
So those sort of copywriters have got to do some. Do they just go on what you've led them to, or do they have another session with your clients to sort of drag out what they need?
Yeah, they have a session as well, because that's an area that I'm not experienced in. So, for instance, tone of voice, a copywriter would have that experience, and they would have that separate conversation. Right. I do have clients. It's interesting. I am, as I said, I'm trying to embrace AI, and I have clients that we can go down 3 areas. So they can work with a copywriter, they can do the copy themselves, or there is another option. We bring AI in, and I am embracing it. It's all about copy prompts. So I do find this is the one thing that holds up website design when clients have got a blank page, or it's usually lorem ipsum text, and they're thinking, I don't know what to write here. But what I can do is I can use a robot to have copy prompts, so heading prompts and then paragraph prompts, for them to then go in, and after I've trained them up, they can go and amend that copy. But that's purely down to budget, really. If they can't afford to go down the copywriter route and they're struggling to write copy themselves. It's the one thing that holds up projects, is copywriting.
Yeah. So it's interesting you say that, because I treat AI and ChatGPT particularly as almost like a personal assistant. So they haven't got specialist knowledge, or it hasn't. It has a general knowledge that I can ask questions to, which I guess that's useful in itself. It gives you a starting point, like you say. It's very difficult to start from a blank page because you don't know where to start. Whereas if you've got something that's sort of 50, 60, maybe 70% done, and then you then start adjusting it to your preferences, then that's easier to start from that place, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And if my clients have got that brand strategy, bringing in those core words from the branding cards that we've used, they can start bringing in those words into their copy. So then they bring in consistency too.
Yeah. So you've talked a bit about the way you work, and why you started and how you started. So if you are talking to someone that may be thinking about doing something like what you have done with regards to taking the leap into setting up their business and doing maybe something similar to what you do, what would be your guidance with regards to the first steps in doing that?
They could come and have a conversation with me, because another string to my bow is my mentoring.
Okay.
So with my 25 years experience, I'm adding in the mentoring, because I want to particularly help women. I want to help women that want to blend their career, their self-employment, with their family. I've done it. I wouldn't say it's easy, but I want to be able to help women to fast track their business and not go down the pitfalls that I did. So, people that want to leave the agency world, or maybe they've left the agency world and they've set up their own business and they're struggling to grow. I want to help those people to grow and to attract their ideal clients. And I will help them with their marketing. I'll help them to price effectively, and I'll help them with their systems and processes. Quite a lot of creatives, particularly, they work on the right side of the brain, so I want to be able to help them on the other side of the brain to run their business more effectively.
Yeah. But you've mentioned it a few times. I think relationships are so important, isn't it? It sounds like you've been really effective in developing good relationships, which have stood you in good stead with regard to allowing the business to grow. And I think you can't underestimate the importance of that, can you?
No, that's really important. I think I've probably had that from being a young girl at school. I was always the one bringing people in, being the sociable one, I was told. So I think that's a part of my DNA, I think. So I can just do it naturally. And I
Mm.
know there are people out there that struggle to network and get out there. And if I can help those people to market themselves effectively as well, that's got to be a bonus.
Brilliant, yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great service for anybody that is just wants to but doesn't know how to. Then brilliant. We'll point you in the direction as to how you can get in touch with Vicki if you want looking for a mentor with regards to making that leap. So let's go back into talking about brand. I'm interested in the sort of mistakes people make. So is there some stories that you've had to sort of a little bit like my story with trying to create a website myself and then getting somebody that actually knows what they're doing. So have you got a few stories or examples of where people have started down a route and then you've had to sort of bring them back and actually say, this is where we start, not there?
There have been a couple of clients that have said, I don't want to work with you on brand strategy. I know what I want to talk to you about. So, we've kind of gone back to tick sheet stage, I suppose. And, it's an interesting one. It's almost like they've controlled me, which, as we know, I don't like doing. I like to be in control. And we've ended up down so many different reiterations of logo designs because we haven't had the brand strategy in place. And actually, it's costed the client more time, more money, because of miscommunications, not truly understanding the business at a much deeper level. So this is where brand strategy is really, really important. The clients that we have gone down the wrong route have ended up doing 6, 7, 8 different logo designs until they're happy. But actually, by going down the brand strategy route, I still will create 2 or 3 logo designs, but quite often it's the one logo design I think, yeah, we're going to go for that one because we've done all this work, this preliminary work.
It's one of those things, people think they know something, but actually when it gets down to the nitty gritty, they don't really know much about it at all. And I think if you probably talk to people that are like us, delivering a service, one of the biggest obstacles is that you have to be the person that guides the client and not be guided by the client. So an example of this is I talk to a lot of HR people that are in that sort of space, giving businesses HR advice and support. And I say to them, are you a proactive or reactive HR person? And they say, what do you mean by that? And I said, well, are you the person that just does what the client tells you to do? In other words, get me a contract or do this, do that. Or are you a HR person that actually tells that person that's not the right thing to do? Do you want me to show you the right way? So I'm guessing, I definitely get that a lot, and I'm sure you must have that, and it's one point you just described, you must have, where people think they know what they want, but actually what they want is something completely different.
Yeah, and it's making sure that I put those boundaries in place and have the conversations. Yeah. Communication is key.
Yeah, it's about setting the agenda and making sure that you are the expert. Essentially, there's no point employing you and to do a job if they're going to be the one that's telling you what to do, because that's just pointless, isn't it? It goes back to what's the most effective leader, and if you talk, let's bring somebody in that most people know, and that's Richard Branson. He doesn't employ people that he can tell them what to do. His ethos is I bring in people into the business that can tell me what to do. And that's the difference, isn't it? And if you're employing someone like you shouldn't be the person saying, oh, I want this, I want that. It's actually say, Vicki, tell me what to do. And that should be the mentality of the person.
the perfect clients actually. When particularly when it comes to the technology of websites. I've got quite a technical brain, and I get a lot of joy out of showing people, particularly the technical side, and just simplifying it in layman's terms, really.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite easy. I've been into the back end of WordPress, and it gets a bit mind-boggling after a while. And there's so many options, isn't it? It's like most people buy a car, and by the time they sell it, they probably only used half the things that the car actually can do. So, and the same like a computer, isn't it? So some things you just don't need, and that's the thing. It's like simplifying. What is it you really need, and let's focus on those things, and let's not get distracted by those shiny little buttons that actually are whizzy and clever, but actually they're not really relevant in this situation.
Yeah, no, it's so true.
Yeah, indeed. Right, we're getting towards the end of our conversation, so I just want to give you a couple of minutes to sit back, and I'm going to share bits and pieces with regards to my 7-step process. So let's bring that on. So this is the 7-step process that I've mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, and also it's in my book. So when you are setting up a business, it's very important, and I'm sure Vicky's going to agree with me here, is understand yourself. It's understanding what is important to you. Sounds like your process with the 52 cards is about understanding yourself, isn't it? A bit putting up the mirror, understanding yourself, things you didn't really realize about yourself before. Get to know yourself really well, and that can be about your personality style, your behavioural style, your motivations, your character strengths. And once you're in that position and you've got a pretty good handle on your strengths and weaknesses, that's the place to start. That's why M.E.A.S.U.R.E is the first chapter with regards to the 7 steps. Understand yourself first. And from that point, then you can evaluate where you want to go with regards to what the business is about, where do you fit in. You don't necessarily have to be the MD going forward. And bearing in mind, it's more important to find the right person than actually understand how to do something. So again, someone like Vicki, if you're thinking about, well, how can I get my brand out there, rather than read a book and try and do it yourself, find someone that's going to do it for you in this instance. So evaluate where you're going, start taking some action. When that action starts to be important to your business, make sure you systemize it as soon as you possibly can. And then the last 3 steps, unify, review, and energize, are very much about developing a team around you to make sure that your business will work without you and most importantly, grow without you. Because most people set up a business and then they become the obstacle for the business to grow. So let's dive a little bit into motivations. So Vicki has mentioned a few times the word control. So the director motivator is particularly around people that want to have control, and that's a good trait to have. If you are setting up in business, controlling things is the good place to start. But it can become an obstacle in the future, because what we know about motivation is we tend to go through a process where things become more important because things become less important. Well, what I've seen in my work is a lot of people, director becomes less important as time goes by, and what becomes more important is this one, which is spirit. Become more important, have freedom than control. So if you think about those two things, control tends to take away your freedom in most instances, not always, and freedom is about letting go of control. So that's why those two sort of work in opposite directions. One wants to do less and have less control over things, and one wants more control. So just something to think about with regards to your business and where your motivations lie. Are you more inclined to have more control or more freedom? And it's also important, I think, to remember the importance of this motivator. The STAR motivator is about the way you get social esteem or get noticed. And I think when we talk about marketing, branding, it's understanding how important that is to you. So if you do a motivation map, you'll find out how these 9 motivations are in order for you. So the most important to the least important. And what would happen if your least important motivator was the STAR? So the thing that you least want, the thing that you feel is least important is actually getting noticed. have a think about how important that might be to your business and whether that might hold you back. So that's the important thing about understanding your motivations with regards to where you fit in with your business and also the things that you do and how your business grows. So there we are, just a few bits and pieces to share with you. I'm going to let Vicki make some comments on what I've just shared.
You're making me think about my business now.
Hey?
It's a real balancing act, I think, between
Yeah.
control and freedom. I'm really going to think about that a lot, actually, those two.
Yeah, and sometimes you can have both. So you might be high director and high spirit, and that becomes a bit of a conflict because sometimes so one day you might want freedom to be the spirit and have that freedom, but other days you want to be in control. It doesn't have so much of a problem. It doesn't become such a problem if you're working pretty much for yourself. But when you start working with other people, it can become a problem because one day you might want to be in control, next day you want freedom and you don't want to be in control. So that becomes a little bit disconcerting for people. So it's something to be aware of. So
yeah.
There we are. So Vicki, anything you'd like to share before we leave?
I just really enjoyed sharing my story and being on the show, so thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's really been really enjoyable. So we'll point you in the direction. If you've anything that's resonated today, then you can get in touch with Vicki, and she's made it really easy. So go to her LinkedIn. There's a little thing that you can click, and it says book an appointment. I've clicked through earlier and checked it out. It works. So you can pick an appointment, speak to Vicki. If you're thinking about jumping into freelance work and you think Vicki can help you, there's nothing to lose. Have a chat with Vicki. I'm sure she could help you or point you in the right direction. So thank you again, Vicki, for your time today. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thanks. It's lovely to be here.
Hopefully catch up again real soon. So there we are. That's today's discussion about branding. And if you want to know more about that, then I've just described how you can get in touch with Vicki and find out more about branding and the importance of it in your business to allow it to grow. Right, let's just remind you of my book. There's the book. You can get it from me or you can get it from Amazon in paperback or Kindle form, and you can get that by buying me a couple of coffees, and that you can do that easily by clicking through on that QR code, buy me 2 coffees, and I will send you a copy of my book. So hopefully that would be worthwhile, and also any contributions using that buy me a coffee is very much appreciated to keep the wheels in motion with regards to the podcast. Thank you for those that joined us live. If you did, hope you got some value. If you catch this on replay, wherever you might be watching it, whether it's on LinkedIn, YouTube, or on Facebook, and soon to be coming onto Instagram, then leave a comment, ask me a question, ask Vicki a question, then hopefully we can get back to you as soon as we can, or we will get back to you as soon as we can to answer your question. And also don't hesitate to reach out to either one of us if you've got something you'd like to ask us. Right, that's today's show over. We will be back very soon with the next episode of the Motivated Business Show. But for now, take care and see you very soon.